AI right now is all about sharing access to the knowledge that the world has.
Does data get leaked? Yeah, absolutely.
It's not leaked, sold. It's sold.
Exactly. I mean, it's the first is leaked and then it's sold and sold and sold and resold and recycled and recycled. But that's what's going to happen with that data.
Should I fear it?
You chat your ChatGPT and say, I have a really bad day today. That's all being stored of what AI is playing to manipulate with.
But the way we use the data, we control people around the world. They know where you're spending, what you're doing, your habits, and anywhere in the world, that data could be used in the wrong way, right?
And that's when it gets really interesting.
Data is the currency, data is the new gold, and all you have done is put more data into there. You've said your secrets to it, and there's someone willing to pay a price for it.
We're going to be controversial. Dave, Jigar, welcome to Gladiator TV.
Thank you.
We're going to be controversial. We're going to be saying things without getting us in too much trouble. And so welcome to the arena.
Appreciate it.
Good afternoon to you, mate. It's let's start. I'm gonna ask some questions. Do you think CEOs of companies should actually bring their opinions and thoughts to the market, or should they just be focusing on profits?
I think they've got no choice. I think they should be branding themselves and they should be positioning themselves. But I also think that what they have to do has to be in line with the values of what their company should be. Because if you're a CEO who is out there with a strong personal brand, they can raise the revenue generated by the company by about 20%. Just because they're really doing a great job and people love them. So, like for me, Richard Branson, he may change his CEOs, but he's the owner of it ultimately. And so his values are so common to everybody that a new product that comes to the market, like it or not, you know it's a virgin product, so you fall in love with it. Whereas if a CEO falls out of line and his values are not in line with the rest of the world, then that can do massive damage to the brand. So it's a choice really of the CEO and the decision makers of the company as to whether they want to align or at least give a fake version that falls in with who the target audience is. Some people will love the CEO who's really aggressive and says things that are controversial. And some people just say, well, let me get on with it. But I think it's really about the revenue ultimately, and whether that person could stand alone with those things without the product being next to it.
For me, I think it's pretty straightforward understanding that CEOs today are meant to do marketing. And just because we have so many more platforms nowadays in comparison to back in the day where you had probably magazines and a little bit of TV, and there's just so many platforms now, and you've got to be constantly out there. Otherwise, your competitors will, go ahead. You got to be in the face of the people. You got to keep reminding them, and it's sort of one more way of being out there in marketing. Now, frankly speaking, I mean, I think should CEOs be doing it or not boils down to who the CEO is, because I've seen some CEOs that are fantastic at being marketeers, and then there are those CEOs, man, the minute they open their mouth, I feel like they just lost business. So it's a fine balance, but yet in today's day and age, you can't survive without marketing, and that's why CEOs need to be doing it.
Thank you. Now we're talking about the richest man on the planet getting involved in politics and elections and stuff like this. What's your opinion about that? Because yesterday, I think the Tesla stock dropped by 14.6% because of the issues that Elon Musk and President Trump have currently. The spat is out in the open.
I didn't hear about that. What call that happened? But it's not been getting on.
So if I was a Tesla stockholder, I had the shares, I'd be pretty disappointed because something outside the business is affecting my stock price, right?
Definitely. I think that you have to take each one in its context. I think also we're seeing a huge difference in the fact that because we're all connected, these things might have gone on behind closed doors and you wouldn't know. Like, for instance, being a Brit, you go back to the Second World War, and Winston Churchill was seen, and probably still is seen, as one of the great wartime leaders of all time. He wasn't a very nice guy, If you dig into who he was and what he did, he was a pretty horrible guy, and he fell out and angered everybody. But the bit that you got to see made you go, he's a good guy. Nowadays, I don't think of this about the same way, because social media would have taken him down, and his values and his conversations, his interactions with people would have been pretty repulsive to many people. So I think that what we've got now is a mirror and cameras 24/7. And so whoever does it has to be very good at playing the game. And I think that what you've got is most of the people that we would discuss in terms of the billionaires, millionaires of big companies are not that good at playing the game. And that's when we catch them. If they are good at playing the game, we don't really know who they are and what they're up to. So take, for instance, and it's not a CEO, but Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp created this incredible brand all about being this indie hero of movies that would never get, that were quirky, Tim Burton, Edward Scissorhands, all this stuff. And then he went and did Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's one of the first times he actually played an action hero, and he did really well. And as far as you're concerned, you don't know much about him. He's very, very quiet with his wife, Vanessa Paradis. He might be split, so their daughter was not public view, and he's been known to attack photographers, paparazzi, for taking pictures of his family. But then the stuff comes out of Amber Heard, and you realize what a weird fella he really is. So he kept it under wraps, and I think if he'd lost that battle in the courts, then it would have gone against him badly on every single level, because everyone's going, is this guy bad news or not? But because he won, it kind of forgave him, and Amber Heard has never been forgiven because she lost that blonde battle. So I think it's maybe that you need an Elon Musk versus Trump conflict in public for people to make a decision on which one's the best one that they want to align with. And so the Republicans are looking at that at this very, very moment in time and deciding which is the one that this is the future of our party.
I have a Netflix subscription. I have an Apple TV, Apple Plus, Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Premium, Disney Plus, OSN Plus. So there's a lot of subscriptions out there. And then you obviously have your regular cable TV. I get my drama already. Why am I getting more drama on news? Because it seems like, seriously, a lot of it looks scripted. A lot of it looks being put out there for a purpose which probably me and you may not understand. You're friends one day, you're not friends the other day, and you're friends again. And, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a joke. It's a bit of an entertainment piece, and that's how I think the public should take it. And as far as your question about stock prices and the shareholders is concerned, I think there is a value which was tied into the stock price because of their association. Now, because that association no longer exists, that value went away. So if you were valuing that company not on the basis of the company itself to begin with, ultimately, you lost that partner. And you might get back, or just in case, just be careful.
Sure, but as you said, I agree with you with everything you said there. But I think that there's an ingredient added to politics and to business that just didn't exist 30 years ago, and that's reality TV. Real people in front of cameras, let's see what they do. And it's addictive to watch it. When you look at AI, there's 3 levels of AI that's being used to be able to get the quick details out of people. First thing, simple, you put your name, address, so on. That's the data that Facebook, everybody else has. Cambridge Analytica, which is done through Facebook, managed to get a lot of authoritarians into power by looking at that 15% shift that you can create. You've got people who vote one way, people who vote the other way. What about the undecideds? 15% undecideds? What if we could move them into one of the camps and get them get them to vote? That's how Cambridge Analytica did it. There's a fascinating stories which I don't need to talk on, but we can go through to it all again. So you got first of all, you got the data of who you are, what's your email address, and so on. Then you've got your likes and don't likes, which is the stuff that you talk about. And remember, your ChatGPT and all the different social media is now getting this out of you and is standard to be put into a box. The third level is when you do a confession that nobody thinks about. You chat your ChatGPT and say, I'm a really bad day today. I'm having a tough time with my friend. And you know what? I just wonder what the best advice is. That's all being stored. Now, you wouldn't tell that to your partner or your staff or maybe your closest friends. It might be about your closest friends. But those incredible touch points are the third level of what AI is playing to manipulate with. And that's when it gets really interesting. Because you can change your politics with a second level, but nobody's done anything with the third level yet.
I mean, do you feel, or do you think that I can understand Facebook may take your details of data and manipulate it for ad spend, but ChatGPT is just a subscription model. When I'm talking to it, I feel a lot more comfortable sharing my data with it than I did with Facebook or Google. Should I fear?
Two things. It's not a subscription model in the UAE. It's be free for everybody, which is amazing. That means guys on construction sites, the pro, of course, the plus, the big plus. The guys on building sites will be able to sit there while waiting for the bus, talk to their phone, and get great ideas about running a business back home or whatever it is. So it's going to make, I think the UAE will become the smartest country in the world and probably the best in business. Just purely because we're going to have this incredible smart, free access to loads of ChatGPT. As for what you tell it stuff and you let it know what's going on, they know this. AI right now is all about sharing access to the knowledge that the world has. And that means you can sit there on your phone and be smarter than most people if they didn't have their phone, because you can tell them the right arguments and facts. But what they're all pushing towards is emotional intelligence, the bit that makes us human. How can we get more of that into the phone? How do we get more of that into AI? And that's what it's going to be really interesting. Because that game, we don't win. We would be I'm a human, but we can't do anything.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, it's safe till that news comes out where it gets leaked. So will it be leaked? Yes, absolutely. At once upon a time, data is the currency, data is the new gold, and all you have done is put more data into there. You've said your secrets to it, and there's someone willing to pay a price for it because of whether it's swaying the elections or for corporate gains, to understand what you like and what you don't like and what are your needs and desires and to cater to them. But it's a matter of time. I mean, even when you talk about Facebook, it's okay to say it in hindsight because of the whole Cambridge Analytics and the exposure that came out of it. There was a day and age where people didn't realize that when they were entering data and information into Facebook, that it's going to be exposed. I'm sorry, how many real estate calls do you get? When you buy a property, do you expect your data to be leaked out here? No, I probably get about 10 calls a day. So does data get leaked? Yeah, absolutely. So no data is secure.
Not leaked, sold. It's sold.
Exactly. I mean, it's the first is leaked and then it's sold and sold and sold and resold and recycled and recycled. But that's what's going to happen with that data. And the second thing is when you talk about AI, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the news about this company called Builder.ai was actually has raised in billions. Ultimately,
it was staff.
It was staff sitting out of India. Actually, I am a master for manually building the platforms for the applications. There was no AI. So .ai actually stands for actually Indians.
No.
I mean, listen.
They raised money today.
Oh, a log of money.
They came up with a really wow thing, and people were throwing money at it, but it wasn't actually AI that was doing it. It was their team of minions.
They must have been fast, right?
Yeah.
Who knows? Who cares? They made a lot of money. I mean, they raised a lot of money, and then they went bankrupt. But
Have they gone bankrupt?
yeah, now that's why the news has come out.
Builder.ai.
Builder.ai.
I wonder what they did.
Build applications. So real applications using AI, but it was actually Indians working from contact center.
Maybe it was from your blood.
It was own chick, Elizabeth something. Yeah.
She took all the most of the richest human beings and their investments and hardly serving time.
But what do CEOs or what are CEOs expected to achieve? Numbers, right? At the end of the day, if you look at the American economy today and compare it to pre-Trump, do you see it declined or do you see it improved? I see the numbers improved. I see this.
It's improved.
It's improved. I mean, listen, that dip that you're referring to had also made a lot of money for many people, right? I mean, the dip that you're referring to is a share market, right? Frankly speaking, that makes no difference to the real value and GDP because that's just your and mine perceived value. If you lost money, that means someone else made money. So there was just share market is just basically saying an exchange of wealth. It's a transfer of value from one person to another, one entity to another entity. It's not about creating value. But if you see what has happened since he's come in power out there, is there's actual push towards creating value for there. I mean, having visited India many a times, I would be very familiar with how rare it is to see foreign products out there because of the customs duty and things like that. So what's wrong in saying these guys are charging us whatever 100, 150% tariffs and we're barely charging them 20%? Why shouldn't it be matched? Why are we the ones who are donating? I mean, there was something to do with a charity going and condoms being the end product of that usage in an Arab country. I mean, seriously, how is America?
That was true. That was not true.
Yeah, but I mean, again, this is my whole point, right?
He's bullshit.
Yeah,
Okay, now I have a question.
Drive through the closing down of USAID, and it wasn't true.
Okay, question for you. How do you know it wasn't true? How do you know it was
The
true?
facts. They actually did the fact check, and he was never condoms with.
People doing the fact checks on media companies nowadays. Who's paying for this media companies?
Data, 100% it was data that came out, and this never happened. True?
Yeah.
Never ever happened. And I actually, I tell you, the real Bradley was talking about it online.
Right.
But I had to go in public saying, do fact check, stop spreading it. It's like in England, was it Southport? This guy killed some children.
Yeah.
And within hours, Rosing is a Muslim.
Who came over on a boat illegally. And he was just a messed up teenager from Wales.
No, but that's the whole thing. Right now, the content is being controlled by media, correct? Majority of it. I mean,
I don't know, because I think people have more direct access to the public now without the media. There's platforms, but that Facebook doesn't control what I say. Because I say what I say and goes direct to the public.
well, you say what you say, but does that algorithm not control how many people and which people see what you say?
That's true for both sides, but what happens is the guardrails have been removed from a lot of the social media, and you got to think about what actually goes viral. Things that go viral are things that make people laugh or things that make people angry and scared. So therefore, it plays into the scaremongering and the nasty. How many viral posts do you get saying, I hope you're having a lovely day? Well, no one pay attention to it, because as a caveman, our DNA is what's going to kill me. I'm going to pay attention to that. So therefore, that's really well manipulated in the media, and it can be done so simply. We could start a rumor here, put it onto social media, and watch it just grow and bounce around the world until it actually comes out on CNN. And it's been practiced. Fox and CNN take it from the people below them, and they take it from people below them and below them. And you can start the rumors, and they go all the way, because there's so few journalists out there doing proper research and fact check and everything. They just go to the suppliers and the bloggers and the influencers for where their content comes from it. And many of them make it up. And that becomes a story. And you're like, well, where did that come from? Well, what's it come from somewhere?
So I think media platforms, like you discussed TV channels, they say to suit them. Exactly, yeah. They say change it to suit that. At the same time, I feel the influencers, be politicians, business people, have never had so much access to the end user either, because there's no PR company anymore now. You can go direct. The movie stars can talk direct to all their fans.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Well, that also shows that the power of a movie star is lessening more and more anyway, because unless they are actually doing it as an influencer, they're reliant on that movie to come out and really have a huge impact. And during that time that they're doing the actual press conferences for the movie is really the only time that they're going to have the press paying attention to them, unless they've built a separate brand. I mean, look, there's a number of artists who are influencers that are able to be in movies, and we talked about Conor McGregor earlier, about his ability to take part in Roadhouse and so on. Because if sports people are slightly different than musicians and movie stars, because I think they have to be able to prove they're good at doing something without the press, pretty much. But if you don't have the media that you're generating driving it and having followers doing it, then you're only as good as that one thing. If you do it right, you can stay at the top of the game whether you're actually doing these sports or not. I think that's the interesting world we're in now, where anybody can be an influencer, but it's really a case of where do you want to take it. Most people just want to have a life.
But isn't it as equal to saying that anyone has a voice, which means anyone can say anything, and that anything can mean anything, can be fact or not? We can say this gentleman over here has superpowers and he can read minds, and you start a rumor like that and it might just go viral.
At the moment you can. The only thing I believe that you can't say is anti-Semite. That's the only thing you can't say without getting arrested.
It depends where you are.
And jury, US and jury.
And again, we could go down a particular rabbit hole of that subject. But I think that
No, I don't. That's the only thing that you can say that you can be.
in some places, that's true.
Yeah.
In some places, that is
So anything you can say anything about other religions, anything about political
Yes.
where you can't say certain things.
Not here. Not here. You can't say many things here.
Not here. We're talking about the world population, not so much here. Well, I keep away from that. Some listen.
I think that what you just said there is largely because the law hasn't caught up with the way that the media world is speeding forward. So the media world is just going, it's fair game, do what you want. And I don't particularly, I was trained BBC. So the BBC is always about holding a mirror up to what's going on in the world, not putting your spin in it or writing something on it first and holding that up first. All you do is reflect. So if you interview a politician who's a bit of a shitbag, your job is not to say you're horrible. Your job is to ask them questions where they reveal they're horrible. But if they walk away happy because they did it, you didn't give them a hard time, then that was the interview.
I don't think it's a case of law catching up or not and the legalities catching up. I think it's a question of the people in power now controlling the legalities better, and that's why they're able to control the media better. I don't think media is independent anymore.
Well, has it ever been independent, apart from maybe the BBC? But even then, it controlled the narrative.
When we talked about the governments versus the media, what we used to have as a government were creating and controlling their own national radios and TV stations. And so it didn't really spill onto cable, onto satellite. It was pretty much from this is a British one, this is an American one, and so on. But what we've got now is, and the predominantly American companies, but some of them are Chinese, they're run by these oligarch human beings who are spilling over. So, for instance, one of the reasons of Musk taking over Twitter was not necessarily because he could run it better as a business, which clearly he couldn't, but what it did was it gave him a voice to be as powerful. No, of course not. He's not that great a businessman. He's a very smart player, but he's not that great a business person. But what he wanted to do was have a microphone that could amplify him as big as any world leader, so whatever he decides to say is heard. So if he picks on Britain, which he did, and starts saying rumours and all sorts of nasty stuff about Britain, Britain's not big enough to take on X. Because even if you fight that particular battle, are you going to get a jurisdiction that closes him down? Well, America's not going to close him down. We're going to say it's your problem. Just block him out in Britain. You can't block him out. There's people who just use VPNs and get access to it. So you've got a number of, I would say, ethically challenged decision makers owning the world's biggest platforms, and they will bypass your media and they'll bypass. These guys are made a decision saying, let it happen. Doesn't bother me. I'll let it go out.
Somebody's made that decision.
And that's the drive of the world right now. It's not got an ethical side that says we should stop that. How can any parent turn on to their kids and say, turn your device off, I don't like what you could get access to? Forget it. The kid's going to get it anyway, and you'll be doing a disservice. All you can do is lean into the way you bring your kids up. And hopefully you've taught them enough stuff at an early age that they can decipher what's good and bad for them themselves.
But this is what we're coming back to. When you say raise them right, like, okay, I want to make sure my kids have access to gadgets. I want to make sure they know how to use the social media platforms. And yes, I can teach them all about using internet responsibly and, staying away from the dirty stuff and being mindful about fact checking. And I can teach them how to fact check and all that. But at the end of the day, there is that fear that there's going to be someone out there putting a rumor and they're going to get exposed to it and they're just going to believe it because somehow this is how information is now being captured. Back in the day, unless you saw it on the encyclopedia, you did not believe it. You even questioned things in the magazines by the time TV came around. And then if it was on the TV, it must be true, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be on the TV. And then people slowly came to realization that, oh, wait, you can actually buy time slots on TV and put your content your way, and it's called advertisements. You can manipulate it to abuse. You can have them question you the right questions, and things started getting exposed. today what's happening with social media and your mobile devices, it's exactly the same, which is, oh my God, there is someone out there who is using this to either gain popularity or, either gain social currency or bank currency. Ultimately, that's what everything is about. And eventually, it's about getting more viral content out there. And to be viral, they're going to put some nasty stuff out there, which is going to allow them to go viral. Like you said, it's all going to be, hey, yeah, it's a great day. We had a great chat. We don't want to put that online because it's all going to go viral. And even if we put it, there's no use. So now my kids are going to get exposed to that kind of content. And that is why I appreciate the fact that certain controls are in place in this country. And that's what I was referring to earlier in this conversation, which is I'm glad that, yes, you're not supposed to speak about certain things. Yes, you don't have easy access or absolutely no access to many things out here. But I'm glad because it's not to say as an adult, that's not your choice whether you want access or not. But as a kid, do they really have a choice? Do they have the sensibility? Do they have the maturity to understand the right from the wrong at a young age? Probably not. You do because you're an adult. Now, if you want to get access to whatever is not available here, go. Live in that country and no one's stopping you.
The question is, 2 questions. What's real? Outside here or here? Because I'm wondering, are we giving our kids a disservice because it's so perfect here? The moment they go out, they're going to be exposed to that world, be real or not. That's one thing. The second thing is, from you guys are very smart. So majority of people, your opinion, when they're watching this, and it's clear lies, clear over dramatizing something, do they think it's true or do they go, BS?
I think they're both true.
I think most of us.
But I think they're both true. It's like saying, listen, I mean, you don't even need to go far. I mean, you go compare people living in the US, in London and New York, and then you compare someone living in Shanghai or Beijing, and you can look at how different they live and how different their cultures are. And then I can compare it to India again and Pakistan and things like that. So this is all real. I don't think that's real or this is real. And
this country, and I love it. That's why I live here. Protects our children in a certain way, right? If you're overprotected, I'll give you an example. Last year, my wife left the stuff in the car, went in, came out, everything in the car had gone. Because she never locks the door.
In this country?
In England.
Oh, England. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Did you never lock the car door?
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is that the real world? Or is this the real world?
It is real that day.
Is it because of your church?
But no, the real, that's like the tension, isn't it?
Isn't the world supposed to be this way?
It's supposed to be like
those guys are not doing the jobs right. I'm
the
sorry.
majority of the world is
It's
not
failing.
the real world.
I mean, I'm sorry. Okay, let's put it this way: they're both real, right? Like you're in a classroom. Effectively, you have 100 plus kids because that's how many countries we have, and ultimately, not everyone's an A+ player. We are here in the UAE, living at the top end of that scorecard. Now, it's not to say that the other one isn't real. What I'm saying is that I would want to be here.
Indeed, at the same time, we live in this smaller, the world's becoming smaller and smaller. If we're not exposing if we're not exposing our kids to the real world out there, aren't we doing them a disservice? Because long after we're gone, they're going to be too cushioned and too overprotected.
We are overprotecting them. But you also have to make the decision as a parent. Be based in UAE. Do I want my kids at their phone still? Do I want them to get into it? What? Do they want to bump into people that are drunk who are just going to pick them because they don't like them? You want to have that in your world, or you want them to have as much childhood and life based on what they want in life as possible. And you're going to get in balance as a parent, deciding what's the best way for my kid's future. So for me, I've kept Maya, this 14, in this country to give her as much happiness as possible. Because I think as a child, that's your default setting, what you grow up with. Later on, you see the rest of the world, you're going to deal with it. And there's plenty of wonderful places she can travel to. She might want to stay in the UAE, or she might not want to. But I think a real world, it's like anything. It's, if a tree falls down in the middle of the forest and nobody's looking at it, can you hear a sound? Where's the attention? And when you talked earlier about, data being the new gold, I don't think data is the new gold. I don't think data is the new currency. I think attention is the new currency. I think what people's eyeballs are on, what's really getting people's opinions to turn, that's where it's all at. That's why influencers are so important, because if that influencer gets X amount of people, you get incredible numbers watching your social media. That means that elevates you as a really important person to be connected to do stuff. Why? Because if you say something, more people will notice it, which puts you in a political scene, whether you like it or not. And I think that that's really where we're looking at.
Well, I mean, you're not going to get there without having the right data. I mean, at the end of the day, even if you're talking about having a number of followers or, being an influencer and making an impact onto something, to be there, that means you're referring to the social currency one person has. And to obtain that social currency, that in itself is a data set. Because ultimately, what am I after? I'm after his or her followers, views, right? And that's what I'm trying to capture. So it's like, again, for me, it's ultimately currency does not feed my soul, right? It's a food, but I can use the currency to buy the food. And that's what I think data is that if I have the data, I can achieve my objective, whether it's to win elections or to get more clients, get better revenue through the influencers. So for me, that's what I mean.
Data is the ingredients. It's like the cooked meal is the attention, but the data is the stuff that you put in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's like money. Money is
money to get the attention.
Right. Yeah. So
the question is, 40 years on,
yeah.
Are your children living in Dubai?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that, sir. Your thoughts. Where's my
WCS? I don't care. I'll be all dead.
No, I mean, listen, I would like to believe that, they grow up to be sensible adults and they will make their own choices. I cannot speak on their behalf. I can speak on my behalf. I traveled the world. I was in Australia and I decided to come back to UAE.
Where would you like them to live?
I would like them to live. If the world's in 40 years is as is today, I would like you to live here. Because gone are the days when you would say, America is the land of opportunity. I actually think UAE is a land of opportunity.
Without doubt.
Okay. When you talk about safety, again, compare UK. I mean, you can't go shopping in London, for heaven's sake. You can't wear this. You will have your hand chopped if you had that watch out in London. Yes, no.
Yes.
So why would I want my
with any jewelry or anything to that?
So what? Do I want my kids to grow up in a society of fear? So no, I don't want them to be afraid. I want them to be happy, independent human beings and adults, right? And this society, this environment gives you that opportunity. There are laws. Don't break the laws. You will never need to worry about anything in this country. You don't need to fear the law. You just need to obey the law. And the laws exist for the protection of the greater society.
We're blessed that, and I really mean this, that we're blessed that we have great leadership and rights are in the right place. These same things, it could be, somebody asked me a question, do you think things changed after COVID? I said, damn right. This hasn't been out of the COVID, but the way we use the data, we control people around the world is in place right now. They know where are you spending, what are you doing, your habits, and we're just blessed that we have great leadership. Anywhere in the world, that data could be used in the wrong way, right?
And it will be, not here. But I mean, look at the social index you have in China, where they can see, like this country, they know where you are at any given time, but what they give to you, but they reward you on what you're saying about the country. So if you don't say enough about China, then your score can go down. If you don't give enough back to China, your score will go down. How does that manifest itself? Well, you get slow internet in the home. You're not allowed to go on fast trains or decent holidays. When somebody is a Chinese actor or actress is in an international movie and they're traveling around the world to build their brand and go and we're not doing anything for China, so they come back and their score has gone right down. They're not being good for China, they're being good for themselves. And so that's the data being manipulated in a way to control people. We're quite blessed in the fact it's not like that. But I also think it's a danger of looking at, I love UAE, I've been here for 30 years, and I would rather be here than anywhere else. But I think that the opportunities for the time being are going to grow massively here. But I also think that there's huge opportunities elsewhere. And I think that what will happen is at the moment, everybody is smart is saying, you know what, I'm not going to give this to my government. I'm not going to give it to the people who are going to steal off it. I'm going to move to the UAE or Saudi or this region and protect what I've owned because I'm really smart. But the next line, I think, is going to be people saying, I'm so lucky to have learned these systems here. I'm going to take them out to a country that doesn't have them and sell them there. And it depends on whether the country can buy it, or the country you choose. But I think what you're going to end up, and I think what ChatGPT is going to drive us faster, is you're going to end up really smart people being satellites, being sent out and setting up business of maybe you've got a branch here where it's head office, but you then open it up in different countries. So that's all the
Countries will become like here, rather, because one of my fears is 250 to 300,000 people a year are coming here to Dubai alone. Yeah. Are we going to dilute these values because we're growing so fast? Or are we going to have more of an influence to the outside world?
Growing up here, I've seen what happened in Kuwait. People came here. Lebanon, people came here. COVID, people from UK, India came here. And did we dilute our values? Probably not. We only got better and better. And I think we got exposed to the little bit of what you were referring to as a tough world out here too. And it's great because now there's a better balance. You're not completely in a bubble wrap. But ultimately, whether that opportunity will ever come or not will depend on one thing. If the world keeps hooting the horn of democracy, good luck. Because with any other democracy, what you're going to do is you're going to look for your vote bank and you're going to try to win elections. Communists is a different problem altogether. I mean, what helps over here is the benevolent dictatorship style of leadership. They do not need your vote, but yet they love the people out here, citizens and residents. They haven't forgotten that it is not just the citizens, it's also the residents that help build this country.
And they want to serve you first. Yeah, Sheikh Mohammed constantly took, I want to be the best for my people.
I mean, how many countries have you seen the head of the state walking around the mall just to interact, just to get a feed? You can find him driving on Sheikh Zayed Road so many times, right? And ultimately, what that is coming from is not a place of PR. It's not coming from a place. In fact, he's been doing it way before social media emerged on the scene. This is coming from a place to want to serve. And I mean, can you imagine the kids that have grown up in his shadow? That leadership. So, we talk about mentorship and things like that. So, I mean, imagine you grew up with the mental, like, yeah.
Because Sheikh Zayed was like that. Right. And now we use these how people are still talking about how incredible it was.
There's also not going to affect it has on us as business people in this country. We have a certain ethical way that we do stuff based on being shaped by the bosses above us.
Correct.
As the rules of the country, there's certain ethical ways of doing stuff that we see as the right way to play.
So why would we say this is not a real book? If you ask yourself, isn't this how the world is meant to be?
It's meant to be, but then it could be like
but it is.
For us,
it's not a fantasy. It is.
It's a weird conversation because it doesn't really mean anything. I'll tell you why it doesn't mean anything, because it's where your attention is. Is that a real marriage? Is that a real marriage? Is that a real marriage? It's down to what you want out of it and what you're saying. Just right. Let's not go to marriage. It's not because
stick happier like death.
Yes, so it's the same. No,
let's talk about ordering the pattern, right? So, death. How you will be buried?
How do I want to be buried? The white shirt coffin, the big smile on the face.
Cremated, sheets, coffin, boat.
Garbage bit.
Because seriously, I'm planning my own funeral at the moment.
How long have we got?
I'm planning it. I'm a habit.
Who's going for entertainment?
I'm making the music. I'll do nothing.
Wow.
I'm planning it because I don't want to be a burden on my family when the time comes.
Amazing.
And I'm considering. I was seriously thinking like cremated or buried in a sheet, not coffin.
Right, yeah.
My worst thing is if I wake up and I'm claustrophobic, right? That's the worst day, right?
Oh, do you know that used to happen? They used to find all these coffins with fish scratch marks on it.
Yes.
Do you know they used to put a bell inside the coffin, so if you woke up and you'd been put in there, you could ring the bell and they could find out.
That's
what the phrase.
One uses this.
That's where the phrase "ring the bell" comes from.
Really, with that coffee. Shit.
Yeah. Listen, I mean,
so me cremated.
Stardust. I mean, I think we're all with those Stardust, aren't we? We're all stardust.
So what do you think you're going to say? The earth will be buried in?
Not
Earth to earth first.
No, I think I might get cremated as well. But again, because then there's no scope for scratch.
I'm going to stay in the same chair and decay and really annoy the people trying to buy the house off us. I don't care. My dad was very strong with this because he passed away during back in the COVID, and he said, "Look, I'm not going anywhere. Just do whatever's easiest. Put me in a bin if you want." And my mum was like, "No, we're gonna cremate you." He said, "Right, cremation's the best thing next." So he got cremated, and then we scattered the ashes everywhere. It was a beautiful experience. And I had my dad on my suit, all on my shoes, because the wind was blowing as I was scattering his ashes, and it's hilarious. But it really depends. Here's the thing: when you talk about the burial. Because we could go on and talk about like life after death. And as somebody who doesn't really believe it, I'm spiritual, but I don't tend to believe the same things as everybody else. I think life after death is the impact that you make and the knock-on effects of what that means to people. And it won't necessarily have your name all over it, and the way you change.
I had a DMT experience in Mexico, and my intention is to find out what happens when you die. And the message was so clear that you just pass knowledge. So just passing knowledge. Just energy exchange. And it was a beautiful experience. Until that day, I used to think about death every minute, every evening. Now I'm cool with it.
That's a big change. You used to talk about that all the time. But here's the thing for you. Because we talked about Musk, we talked about Trump, we'll talk about legacies, and we'll talk about the country we're in. In 500 years, what will people remember about anything you've talked about? It's not now.
I'm not sure human beings from existing.
I've been remote, but I think so. But I mean, maybe the Trump legacy, maybe. That'll think it.
5 years, no.
Well, I mean, if history books, they might look at what the big change was and that, and think, oh,
I think by then they'll realize history was a boring subject.
So my next question is, what do we see in 4 years? Really? Because he's going to be done in 3.5 years.
maybe.
He will be. He can't. He won't. So, I mean, be in his early 80s. His early look as a Hank dimension. So, where do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it's going to be more nationalism? Is there going to be more Republicans, more far right? Or do you think there'll be more middle or left?
It's about American politics. It's about
ultralism, right? But nationalism, yeah, they do. With dollar.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately.
I don't think the American politicians control the world. I mean, you could have said American corporates control the world, then I would have still agreed with it. Yeah, I think it's the money. It's the money that's controlling everything. Whether we talk about media, whether we talk about elections, whether we talk about anything else.
We've talked about how do you think the shift in America is going to come? Do you think people will go about more of this? They're going to go opposite because they're
It will boil down to who is the leader. I mean, if Elon Musk really comes out and puts some political party out there and he markets it well and he uses the data right to swing the votes his way and he wins, then that's what it's going to be. And then it's going to be in a direction left or right, depending on where he wants to take it.
Yeah, that's true. But I think it's a game changer because what we've got it's like, for instance, adding AI to the business world. Suddenly you go, oh, it's all over here. So I can be as smart as your room full of people just with my phone. Because I can get all the data you're accessing and I can give you an answer. And it's like introducing the internet.
crypto. Is it dying death? Is there a future? Blockchain technology?
Oh, blockchain technology has got massive future. Massive future. I mean, just the way the concept of ownership works is going to be completely different in even less than 10 years, just because of blockchain technology. Crypto, we could talk about that. I mean, again, for me, it's you were trading on a stock exchange. We spoke about how the Tesla shares can go up and down with nothing to do with what the company is really doing. And that's, again, similar with any crypto coins and things like that. Vegas is more fun. I told this to you before. If you just want to gamble, go Vegas. It's more fun. But blockchain technology will change the way we function as a society. I mean, right now, my human brain cannot accept that this piece of cup can be shared. The ownership of this asset can be a shared ownership. I'm struggling to accept it. Because for me, this is one asset, this is one cup, this is how I see the world, it's one item. How can 100 people own this one cup? How can 1,000 people own this one cup? What do you mean? Like, because it's physical, and I mean, I have a contract, I have a share, but that's what a company is ultimately, right? And when you own shares and things like that, ultimately you own pieces of assets. And what blockchain is doing is allowing for people who did not have access to certain asset classes because they were beyond their means, is now all of a sudden getting accessible. So if you were making that much money in Dubai, but you believed in the real estate market out here, you didn't have a choice. And now, with what Dubai Land Department has run the pilot project, you've seen it in the news, you can own a property for even 2,000 dirhams, or at least a piece of a property, but your returns are equivalent of whatever you've invested for in proportion to that. So with the property, people again fractionalize land as pockets of lands, because that's how farmlands were, carved out between brothers back in the day. But that's not what this is. This is about revolutionizing how ownership itself functions. It's like, say, hey, mate, I have an olive tree plantation somewhere, and, I want 1,000 people to be able to have access to it. Why do you care? You want it to go IPO, but, going IPO is not straightforward, it's not easy. But if you can tokenize your one farm, all of a sudden, what you've achieved is some sort of ultimately equalish objective or end result, which is you got your value extraction by selling tokens. People who are interested in buying a share or a portion of that farm and the profits of that farm.
Can they only pay you in cryptocurrency?
No.
They can pay you cash.
Yeah, I mean, whatever is the currency. So when you, let's say you tokenize a property here, 1,000 different owners, when the rental comes in, there's a management fee and whatever regular expenses that are, whatever's net profit, that comes back to you in your dirham account.
Shared ownership, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fractional. So there's a difference between shared ownership and fractional ownership. So for me, that's where the gap is. Like right now, a few companies, what they have been doing in the past, even here in the UAE, is they've been sort of putting the property or the asset under a special purpose vehicle and sort of having a share registry. So you owned shares of the company, not really of the asset. It was a company that owned the property. With blockchain technology and the new program with Dubai Land Department, which is smart contracts, you directly own into the property. So it's not like your name's on the title deed, you actually own but it's effectively a direct ownership of a fractional ownership of that property.
Is this the first in the world?
No.
Yeah.
It's happening. I mean, you had even the next step, which I believe and I want to push for it, is corporate registry, because, I work with the governments and the free zones out here. And as an advisor to them, I'm heavily pitching the idea of saying, how can we tokenize shares? Because all of a sudden, if you own a company and now you can just put your company, it's already in a tokenized format, you can put it on an exchange, and that was as good as you going, almost as good as an IPO, right? Public. So it's going to revolutionize the way ownership works.
You work for the government. One of the things that find it fascinating how it works is like somewhere along the way, the ruler of the country recruited somebody to run Emirates Airlines, recruit Soudi got Dubai Holdings, etc. What is this magic that the current leadership has in getting the right people on board to deliver their vision? I have a small company, and and relative very small compared to the country, and the challenges in recruitment. What do they have in place to make sure that the highest standards are kept in everything? Like, you and me, like best airline. I hate those policies. It's incredible.
So in your company, you always will have an end result of maximizing your profits.
I want to.
Yeah. So you'd always try to balance out.
Some guys recruiting the wrong people that slowed me down most.
Yeah. But I'm saying is that when let's say you're hiring someone for marketing, you're going to take into consideration how much you're going to put out, how much is the company making to begin with. The leadership out here, when they're recruiting people for their projects, they don't care about that individual's resource cost. They care about putting the best in class out there. So, I mean, if you look out, they don't need to have roads this straight. I mean, this is the state of the infrastructure out here.
Not one pothole, nothing.
I mean, come on, can we have one at least? I want to test the suspension.
Well, I used to really to find out whether it works or not because the place would be flooded. So that was a way for.
But then listen, how many countries have had floods and done nothing about it? And then all of a sudden there was one flood here. And was it
Almost 80 billion?
Yeah, so how many floods has happened this year? Spain had one.
All over the world.
All over the world. I mean, US has had one, India had one. So I haven't heard any news about anyone doing anything about it. And all of a sudden over here, immediately a task force is set and we've seen plans in action. We've seen groundbreaking. So what's going on? I mean, they don't care. This is what I mean, right? Like as a company.
Money has never been an issue.
No.
Standards. Do they have systems and companies to monitor?
Yes.
Yes. So it's a separate entity monitoring all these standards now.
So it's even beyond that. What the leadership has done over here is really smart. They have created competition amongst themselves.
Got what, 50 countries? 50 companies? All competing for an index to see which comes out.
I mean, you got property, right? You want to talk about property? You got MR, you got Nahleel, you got Miras, Dubai Pole Days. I mean, we can name a lot. They're competing with each other. So they're constantly striving to improve the standards because there's competition.
But that actually goes deeper to the government agencies. So when you're going to Etisalat or you're going to DIWA, they're all on an agenda where they're indexed to see what percentage score they get from their internals, from the customers that work with them, from hitting their targets, and something like, I think there's about 50 different organizations that are involved in it. If you're a CEO of the bottom 3, you lose your job. And I think they do it 2 or 3 times a year. They just keep checking it. And Sheikh Mo said, if you're at the bottom, you go. And so they're constantly in fear of just raising their standards, raising their game, and doing it the right way. And I think the way that they have to do it the right way means best practices, not just I'm in charge. Because if that doesn't work,
Throw money at the problem.
yeah, that's the worst standards. It's amazing, huh?
Every day. I was sitting in Starbucks. Clean, amazing service. And just trickles all the way from government to Starbucks being toilets and malls.
And you have a conversation with somebody about something you don't like, and you know that in most cases it will feed back to something or to somebody and it will be fixed. You go to any of the countries that you talk to, going somewhere else, say the toilets are dirty, yeah, go home before you come out. That would be the answer. Don't go to these toilets then. Instead, the game which is done here, which is like, we don't know who's going to be there, so we want to make sure it's super clean and super red for everybody. I think one of the things that this country has had a massive advantage of is, first of all, it could start from scratch. Secondly, there's no politics involved in it because the decision makers have had it. They're all the way through it as a benevolent dictatorship family who are really caring about their people. But also the fact that they weren't worried necessarily about the financial side of it because they've got access to oil and the infrastructure. The position where we are in the world is that everybody comes through here. So the smart people then started recruiting the right people more around the world to come in and say, come to our country. I mean, I've been here 30 years. You've been here forever.
Yes, well, yeah.
But you've been here, what, 20 years at least? Okay, so when I got here, it didn't look anything like this at all, but you could tell that everybody who arrived had a really interesting story. And the story at that time was, I'm frustrated that my own country doesn't recognize how good I am, what I do. And I found that in every instance, some people end up going back. And there's a change of guard as to which nationality or whoever was at the top of the food chain changed over the years and so on. But what you'd find is many people who did leave came back again. And you always found that the government was so smart at doing it. It's very rare you found a company or an industry lost big hitters and then lost its quality as well.
Exactly.
I can't think of a single instance where that's been the case at all.
All I know is that I don't want to fly any other airline. I don't want to stay in any hotels outside this country. Nothing comes close.
That's because you want to hear your own podcast or Everest. That's ridiculous. Instead of listening to yourself all the way there, it's horrible. Pretty sounds asleep.
I realize how bad I am in the interview. So thank you for being our special guest today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Really, really appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure, honestly.
Without being on advertising, I want you to share with us and the audience what you're up to. What are you doing and where are you going in the next few years? What are your visions with your businesses and what businesses you have?
Honestly, I'm not going to list the businesses. It's a long list. Serial entrepreneur, serial investor, government advisor, work with special economic zones and free zones out here in the UAE. Have launched over 100 plus businesses, currently active 30 plus. Some of them are massive successes, and I let each of that business have its own mouthpiece, face, CEO, and marketing department. So I don't need to go market that, and I don't need to lay it there. But what I want to do is give the knowledge back. I do not want to wait till I'm 60 and then start worrying about my funeral. I don't care about planning for my funeral. What I care about is what am I going to leave behind before that even happens. And I'm not, it's all about legacy. I do not care when it happens, and I'm in a race against time because I do believe that only death is certain and everything else is an unknown. So I am in a race against time to create legacy, and a legacy by creating an ecosystem for the generations to come to become entrepreneurs. So I could have started a nice small boutique venture studio and had two people in marketing in there, 2 people in HR in there, and 2 people in legal in there, and said that's my legacy, and I would have been happy with that. But then just because of my nature, I like to scale things. I said, no, let's have a marketing agency, and let's have a recruitment agency, and let's have a law firm, and then let's have a tax and accounting firm, and let's build this ecosystem by creating multiple ventures. And where I couldn't build them myself because of regulations or technicalities, went and I invested in them, right? So, and I'm still building, because what's happening is as time goes, challenges keep evolving, challenges keep changing, which means I need to keep up to date about what entrepreneurs need. So if you wanted to start a business, what challenges you would face today are going to be different from tomorrow.
Are you a hands-on investor or are you like to be a passive?
Oh, no, I'm hands-on like that.
Oh, you're in this.
Yeah.
What's the biggest investment? Don't say would become money-wise. What's the biggest investment cash-wise you put in?
Individually, I have put into one investment about $15 million as an individual.
And you didn't miss a heartbeat.
No, it was wonderful.
You love it, that's your match.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I did I was I nervous? Yeah, absolutely. Come on, I'm only human, right? Let's not.
But someone will doubt it.
No, let's not BS, right? Do I have anxieties? Do I have emotions? Yeah, absolutely. But then I think ultimately it boils down to waking up and still sitting with all that anxiety, sitting with all that nervousness, sitting with all the questions. Either get the answers, and if you're not getting the answers, it doesn't mean you don't walk. You keep walking, like you keep doing what you have to do towards what you want to achieve. And that's ultimately what's led me to my success, is that as any other human being, I have had my failures, I've had my questions and my doubts and my anxieties and my breakdowns, yet wake up, keep walking forward.
Do you sleep at night?
Peacefully.
Also comfortable with the amount of risk you take. Very comfortable.
So there will be certain moments, there will be certain nights where I know that I have a big decision to be taken, and I'm usually not that nervous when it comes to investment decisions. I'm more nervous when it comes to people decisions. If I have to let go of people, then that's something that does not sit down well with me. Because you have invested time, and for me, my time is more precious than the money. So unfortunately, but yet, if you want to progress, you would have to take actions. Those decisions keep me up, and I don't rush into those decisions. But I do, once I've understood that this person needs to go, I don't wait. I don't wait. I mean, there's no point. I can still have a drink with that individual, but then that person needs to.
It's time we've did it right. Thank you for dinner. They were happy in the first place.
That's why I'm going to perform a bit later. I'm going to throw out a question there, because I think it puts a little cap on what you've been saying and what you brought up as well. What do you want to have on your gravestone? You'll say by Dash.
Yeah.
The dates of birth, dates of death, there's a dash in the middle, isn't it, right?
See, if there is something, and I've said this previously, it's like I'm not gonna say I don't know if you agree or disagree, but wanting to leave a legacy is one of the most selfish lives. Selfishness, yes, and that's okay. I'm okay to be selfish, because I think that's our DNA talking to us, saying we want to survive. As a human species, we are built or we are coded to want to survive, and how are you going to survive? Your way of survival is wanting a legacy. So wanting to pass on that knowledge, you subconsciously, you wanting to be remembered, you wanting to be relevant when you're not even here. And that's your DNA talking to you, saying, I want to be relevant even when I'm not here. And that's how I look about it. And I'm completely okay. And this is my vision. And I want my gravestone to say, the person who created or who enabled entrepreneurship.
See, I would disagree with that. I know this is for your, but yeah, I think yours is perfectly valid. But I don't want to leave a legacy. I want to live my legacy right now.
Yeah.
I want to be able to say that every day.
Yeah. So you don't have to live it now. I mean, you have to create it.
I get that. But the point is that, for instance, take the example for doing it, it was talk about this like this. Mike Tyson, when he was doing that fight against Jake Paul. So he's up against Jake Paul, and people are saying that, Mike, if you do this fight and you lose, you're going to ruin your legacy. And he said, I couldn't care less about my legacy. I can't eat that. I'm making about $20 million. What do you think I care about? And you're just thinking, oh, actually, he's got a point, which is right now is where he's living. Right now is what he's doing. So I think about his history once he's gone, and think about what's happening right now. I think there's a different twist of
Lee Mattis claim that when he dies, Ripple City was one of the greatest boxers of all time.
But will he anyway? What he's talking about is right now. It's like when you meet a pop star.
Well, he made that mark at a young age.
Yeah, he wanted to be the best. Look at pop stars of the movies, or most of pop stars. You have that time when you have that huge hits and the world knows you and loves that video. But then you get older, or we do our next album and so on. Do you live that song over and over again? What a horrible Groundhog Day experience that would be. Or do you evolve into something?
No, but what you're talking about again is what? So again, I agree with what you're saying, but I think it's exactly what I said, is that our DNA is asking us to want to be surviving, right? Even I'm saying to the extremity that even when we are not here, but while we are here, it wants to survive. So if he wants $20 billion today to survive, yes, he's going to do what it takes. And that's perfectly okay. It's not to say that had he had $20 million in his hand and that's all he needed to be happy or content and buy whatever he wanted to buy, he wouldn't still want to leave a legacy.
But if he had the $20 million, would he have done that fight?
Depends on his needs, his desires, because honestly, I don't think in today's society there's a number that you and I can put and say, after that number, I don't want anymore.
I think the word we used was survive. I don't think that's the right word, because he survives without that fight. I think some people just have a fighting mentality. We talk about Conor McGregor. I know his manager. He said the guy's super rich, but he just wants to keep fighting. And all these people around him say, you don't need to. I says, that's all I know what to do, right? So that's all I need.
If that's what gives him happiness, because he wants to keep proving to himself that he's still got it in him. And that's sometimes very typical of sports people, that they even, boast us to one last. It's not even one last. I mean, even if they're 80 years old, they want to throw in that punch to just see that, do I still have it in me? That's the nature.
Us being sexable, so I just want to we have it.
Yeah, it's not that way.
I mean, listen, maybe that's how I'm going to be, is like, hey, you know what? One more business. Do I still have it in me to launch one more business? And seriously, it gets harder and harder, because you get, I wouldn't say lazier, but you stop questioning. You're like, okay, I mean, do I really need more?
Yeah.
And we were talking about it the other day,
Way different, but 20 odd years difference in age. But I'm in the party where I still need to meet you. I said, I'm done. I've got my inner circle done. But what I say is that the best way to be unselfish is to be selfish. The best way you can give is by making sure you're okay. Because I know if I inspire all my staff in my company, I will ultimately do better. So by giving, I know the result is that I will do very well.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's never because need. I love abundance. Survival is a good energy. It's
Because you've crossed that path.
indeed. But even when I was barely existing in survival, it's not good energy. It made it tougher. It made me a true gladiator because I was at my best. But now, stomach's full, they're more relaxed. I'm not as inspired as I was before. But I do know if I love my staff, they end up loving the company more. If I help them more, ultimately I will do that. That's my legacy. And my legacy is that we all have children, and when we go, people say good things about us to our children.
Yeah.
And then they will do the best they can to live up to that legacy that we left behind. Because if you have great parents, you will try to keep that legacy.
Mate, that's heavyweight you're putting on your children. You have too much expectations. God bless them.
None of them feel like you anyway. Like,
But just let them be. You're a good human being. Just let them be.
stage or anything like this.
Be good, do good, and try to do whatever you know how to do it well. Like if you have a skill, try to be good at it. Try to share that skill. Try to share that knowledge. Try to share that experience with the rest of the world. I mean, put your story out there. That's it.
You're a serial entrepreneur, and someone's listening to this, they're getting inspired to contact you.
Yeah.
Which is a bad way of contacting you. It's a good way of contacting you.
A very annoying way to contact me is to send me a message on LinkedIn saying, so, hi, I have a business idea. This is a one-liner business idea. Can I have a coffee with you? Yeah.
No, the worst is, hi, how are you?
Oh,
That's the worst. There's nothing that I'm going to reply to, how are you?
you're seeking money. If you don't have a pitch deck, don't contact me, please.
Get to the point.
Yeah.
Sure that you've done the homework. It's amazing. Out of 100 people that contact me, 90% of them I say, give me a pitch deck. They never come back.
That's the best.
They hadn't even bothered putting a pitch deck together.
What's that phrase that ChatGPT uses on every email? I hope I find you well. That's the one. That's the worst line you could ever. I hope I find you well.
Yes. I get, how are you? Okay, I'll be doing. Great. How can I serve you? And they come back and say, what do you mean? It's so serious. And one of them said, can we pick up the groceries? Yes. You serve your restaurant, mule. I'm just saying, no, why bother? Why bother? There you go. Man, absolute pleasure.
That's my pleasure, man.
Oh, thank you. Amazing, gentlemen. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, buddies.
Thank you.
I admire you. I live up to you. Others, thank you so much. Always. I look up to you. Thank you. Super smart. Loved it. And I'll see you afterwards.
Sad to see you around.
Salute you, buddies. Thank you.